These 5 books sold for almost $350 a profit. Let's go. All right, this is the first book we scooped up. This is The Legal Environment of Business. We bought this on eBay for $11.99 and flipped it on Amazon for 85 bucks. That gave us a $48 profit. I'm over here on the Keep It chart, and what you can clearly see is that the used price of this book and also the new price of this book hovers significantly higher than $11.99. So it was obvious to me that this book was completely undervalued on eBay, so that's why I decided to pick it up. I knew that this was probably going to sell for at least 65 or 70 bucks, and sure enough, it sold for 85 bucks pretty quick too. All right, the second book we scooped is this Arbitrage book, The Last Great Estate on the Philadelphia Main. I actually paid $106 for this book, which is actually quite a bit of money. You can see that this sold for $200.01. This book also sold really quickly, and the reason why I decided to pop on this book for $106 was just due to the fact that there are a number of sales rank drops of over $200, and what that tells me is that if this book is regularly selling for over $200 and this copy is available at $100 on eBay, it's about half of what its true value is. And I think that if I just were to sell it for what it's worth, I would definitely make some money. So that's exactly what I did here. Now you might notice that some of these sales are actually well over $200. Like these handful of sales will look like they're about $225 to $229. A couple of these sales might be $264. So why did I decide to sell mine at $200? Well, I'm not trying to hold on to books for as long as possible and try to maximize every penny that I can get out of them, because if you do try to do that, you're going to be holding on to books for a long time. So try to get the book in there, try to get it to move quick. I thought at $200 that should move pretty quickly, and it did in fact move pretty quickly. All right, the third book that we scooped is We Wanted a Revolution, a Black Radical Woman 1965 to 1985 book. You can see that I bought this on eBay for $33.82. We flipped it for $165. It made a $96 profit. And the thing is, I bought the book undervalued here, but I also exploited the buy box a little bit. So let's go take a look at that. Right now, there's actually only 2 copies available on Amazon, and they're both in collectible condition. And you can see that Amazon is not giving any of those sellers the buy box, which means that this buy box is suppressed. Now, when we head down to the Keep It chart, one thing that you notice is that this book just doesn't really sell that many times. There's only been a handful of sales rank drops, but when the sales rank has dropped, the price of this has been well over $100. Now, the real reason that I had confidence buying this is when I expanded the data to go a little bit further, I saw a collection of more sales rank drops, and you can see that this book was regularly moving for $95 or $100 plus. Now, what's really interesting is that if you go further back into time, you notice that at some point in time, Amazon was on the listing for as low as $18.65, which means that I did have an inherent risk that Amazon could come back on the listing by the time I got this in. And if that did happen, I would have definitely lost money. If you remember, I also said I exploited the buy box a little bit. And the reason why I say that is because you can clearly see that when this book was moving, it was selling for about $120. Yet I was able to sell mine for over $160. So what that means is that I was able to sell mine for more than the lowest used price, which means that I was actually able to exploit the prime gap a little bit. All right, the fourth book we scooped here is Momotaro. We bought this on eBay for $14.94, flipped it for $79.99, and that sold for a $45 profit. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is that this comes in both hardcover and paperback format. The hardcover, which is what I sold, you can see the lowest used price right now is $54.50, and the buy box is actually $99. You can see that in the recent past, there were a few sales rank drops here right around $59. And if we zoom back out, you can see that there was one sale right here, September 21st at $4.95 plus shipping, and yet another one right here as low as $27.52. So because I had seen the book sell for so low in the somewhat recent past, I was like, okay, $14.95 is not going to be the best deal, but it's also not the worst deal either. Now, if we look a little bit further back, we can see that this was actually moving in collectible condition right around $95. There are a couple used offer sales here around $30 as well. But notice that as soon as those used offers came in stock, basically they sold out pretty much immediately, which tells you that, okay, this book definitely has some value if someone's willing to pay $30 for this book pretty much immediately or same day. Now, if we expand the graph a little bit further, one thing that you definitely notice is that, okay, this book has actually moved for over $100 in the past. But again, there is a little bit of fluctuation. This book has sold as well as for as low as $17 or $18. So, even though you see a wide range in terms of price, it's always good to be conservative with the buy cost, because ultimately you want to buy the book at a really good price. You want to get a good deal on it. And so if you're buying the book on eBay for more than you could have bought it for on Amazon in the past, then you could make the argument that you're really not getting that great of a deal. But in this case, I felt like the price was decent. I would definitely pop on this again for $14.94 because I definitely think I can sell for $79.99 again. The final book that we're going to look at is actually a Playboy book. And interestingly, this actually sold on December 25th. So on Christmas, maybe somebody got an Amazon gift card and that's why they went in and purchased this. But I bought this for $50 on eBay, flipped it for $194.63 and made a $102 profit. This is yet another book that I exploited the buy box on, because right now you can see that there's 24 used offers as low as $99. And you can see that the buy box winner right now is at $148. And remember, I sold mine for over $195. But the reason why I did price it that high is because I noticed that there was a little bit of precedent for this book actually selling that high. There have been a couple sales at the beginning of May of 2022 for right around $192. And a little bit more recently in September and November, there are also a couple sales for right around $160, some even up to $190. But again, what I hope you're noticing by looking at these graphs is that the books that I'm buying are significantly undervalued in terms of what you're looking at in terms of the lowest used price on Amazon. For example, this book, the lowest it was ever in the past year on Amazon was about $85. So if I could pick it up for $50 on eBay, and generally this book is well over $100 most of the year, then it's definitely a good deal, because all I really need to do to make money is to buy the book undervalued and sell it for what it's worth. Now, I did again happen to exploit the buy box a little bit, but hey, that's just a cherry on top. That's not how I'm trying to make money. It's really just buying stuff undervalued, selling it for what it's worth. And of course, if you can exploit textbook season, or if you can exploit the prime gap, then of course, why not try to do it? Now, I'm sure you're wondering how to find books like this. So let's go over to Flipmine. I'll show you the exact criteria that I use to find these books, and then also tell you how you can sign up for it if you're interested. I'm over here on Flipmine's homepage, and you can see these are the exact criteria that I use to find all 5 of those books I just showed you that together sold for basically $350 a profit. One thing to note is that while I'm looking at used books, you can use this to look at many different categories on eBay and compare them to Amazon, but specifically I'm a bookseller, so that's what I'm looking at here. Used books where the Amazon price is greater than $85. I like to look at books that have a little bit higher for sales rank, because it gives you a little bit of opportunity to find books that are more undervalued. And the reason why you can capitalize on a lot of these slower moving books is because there just isn't a ton of demand for them. So if there is a great deal, usually you can snag it pretty quickly. I also calculate profit just using the automatic feature with the 180-day moving average, and I also filter the sales rank with the 180-day moving average as well. Now, when you use Flipmine, your columns are probably going to be a lot different than mine. And the reason for that is I've actually changed them in a way that makes most sense to me, that I like it. And one way that you can do that is you can come over here to this little filter icon button. And if you want to click and drag and move any one of these columns, you can easily do that with just one click of the button. But this is the thing that I like to look at. I like to look at best offer if it's enabled, because if it is enabled, that gives me an opportunity to maybe send an offer that's 15 or 20% lower. And in many cases, that can take an okay deal to a good deal, or it can take a good deal to a great deal. Now, you can also see that this is going to give me the eBay price and the inferred lowest Amazon price with the 180-day moving average in mind. And what I'm looking for when I'm coming across books on Flipmine is a differential in price between the eBay price and the inferred lowest price. And whenever there's a big enough discrepancy, I'm going to open up that listing and do some quick keep analysis to figure out, hey, is this something that makes sense to buy? So if this is actually true that this book's eBay price is $104, and over the last 180 days, this book has on average been selling for $253, this would actually be a really good deal. But the only way to know that would be to go ahead and open up the listings. So factually, it is true that if you wanted to buy this, you'd have to spend $104.35, or you can try to win a bid underneath that $104. But when we take a look at this book over on the Amazon page, there's actually some really interesting things. For example, the buy box that Amazon's giving this seller is $634. I highly doubt that that's actually reasonable. You can actually see that there are 9 used offers as low as $249. And the only way we know if this is actually what the book's selling for is for us to go down here to the Keepa chart and do some basic Keepa analysis. So one thing that I noticed right off the bat with this book is that this book sold quite a few times right around $45 to $50, which means that it looks like that this book has been selling at the low end for about $45. That basically represents its lowest value that it's ever had over the last year. And then what I'll also do is take a look at some sales rank drops a little bit further back in time. There's a drop here at 188. There's a couple of drops here at 162, a drop here at 95. And then we can also look at a little bit more recent data where we can see the sales rank dropping, which again indicates that the book is selling. And we can see that the book is moving for over $100 up to $150, sometimes even up to $179.99. And even here, maybe even up to $249.99. So definitely what I would say about this book is that if you could snag this book for $50 plus $4.35 shipping, which means you'd have to win the bid and be the only person to bid, this would actually be probably a decent deal. And the reason why I'd say that is because even though this book has sold for as low as $45, which is what you would buy for on eBay, for most of the year, it actually was significantly higher than that. And most of the time it was selling over 100, sometimes even selling upwards of 150, sometimes even selling up to 249. So this book ranges a lot in terms of what it can sell for. But remember that it is also dependent on the used offer count. So if you look at this used offer count at the bottom of the page, notice that when this used offer count started rising, you actually see that the used price of this book started going down. And as soon as we had a few of these copies bought out and the used offer count starts going down again, then we can actually see that the used price starts to increase again. So right now we're at a used offer count right around 9. And so what I'd expect is that this book probably would easily sell for right around $100. But again, potentially it could sell for much more than that. Let's go ahead and put in our buy cost to pretend like we were buying this $54.35. Again, I think that you could probably sell this for right around $100 pretty easily. And if you did, you would make a $23 profit and a 42% ROI, which is pretty good. Like I said, you could even sell it for more than that. You might be able to go up to 150 depending on what the used offer count is. And in that case, that would be a great deal. And of course, there is some historical data that goes even higher than that. It looked like there was a sell at $249.99, which I definitely wouldn't bank on selling it for that, but technically it's possible considering that the data there exists, and that would be an insane profit. Me personally, I definitely bid $50 on this. I'm not sure if I'd go much higher than that though, because again, technically this book has been cheaper on Amazon in the past, so I wouldn't want to go too crazy. I'd say maybe max I'd go up to $60 with shipping included, but I definitely want to go further than that, because then you get to a point where you have so much capital invested that you actually have to now start thinking about maybe having to exploit the buy box just to make a little bit of money. There are definitely a lot of potential deals out there, not just on eBay using Flipmine, but there's a lot of other ways to source books as well. So what I would say is definitely focus on finding great deals, not just buying good deals. Yeah, you might be able to buy this book for $70, and that might be a good deal still, but it definitely wouldn't be a great deal. I'd say at $55, I still think it's probably a really good deal. Probably not even a great deal. It's just a really good deal. Now, scrolling down a little bit further, I see this farming without the bank. You can see that someone on eBay is selling this for $105, and over on Amazon, apparently the 180-day moving average is $230. You can clearly see that someone's asking $105 on eBay. And boy, is this Keepa chart really interesting. You notice that even though the price of this book today is much lower, it's right around like $65. In the recent past, this book was moving for over $260. And actually what happened is that you can clearly see that there was a new third-party seller that came on the listing, and you can see that they dropped the price all the way down to $64. Now notice that the sales rank has improved dramatically since doing that, and that makes sense because clearly there was some amount of people willing to spend $260 for this in used condition, which is probably well above what the retail price of this book was. And all of a sudden when this becomes much cheaper because somebody has copies at a lower price, clearly way more people are willing to buy this because it makes more financial sense to them. And so we see that with the new price being so low, you actually do see a lot of sales rank drops, which means a lot of sales. Now, if we pretended like that new third-party seller didn't just completely tank the listing and go down to $64, let's say that didn't exist at all, would I think that buying this book at $100 would have been a good deal? I probably still wouldn't have bought it. And the reason why I say that is because there were times in the past where the book was cheaper. Like you can see here on June 17th, and basically June 20th to June 25th, you could have bought this for $21, which obviously in hindsight would have been an amazing deal. Now, yeah, this book was selling for $260, but if you're going to be spending $100, which is significantly more than the lowest used price has been in the past, there's something about that just doesn't make me feel like it's a great deal. Now, when we expand this data to 3,035 days, this book does go up in price quite frequently, but notice that when it goes up in price, it doesn't really sell during that time. For example, there were 2 times where the book did sell at this elevated price, but generally most of these sales are actually at dips where the used price actually comes back down. So like these are sales at $48, $48. You have some sell at 48 again, some sales at 39. And some of the sales are upwards of 174, maybe even up to 250. But again, a lot of these sales are not as high as this would make you think in this recent past. And also now that I look at this a little closer, some of these sales are going to be at this new third-party price at $66. This is probably the same seller who came into stock and had actually quite a bit of stock. Now, one thing that we could do to see how much this new third-party seller has in stock or how much they had in stock over the past, month where they came into stock is you can just go and click this new third-party FBM button. It's going to give these little blue dots. You can just click on them and you can see that the boring one is a person who is selling this in new condition. You can see that this is their stock quantity here on the right. And you can see that their stock quantity goes up to 11, then comes back down to 2. Looks like they replenish. It goes back up, comes back down. So clearly they're moving quite a few copies because, again, many of these sales are at that $65 price because, hey, this book is significantly cheaper. There's people out there who want it, so clearly people are buying it. One thing that I will say about using Flipmine is that it definitely takes patience. There's not thousands of these books out there. There is a finite number of them. which means that you just have to be really good at analyzing keeper charts and being really quick to buy it on these as they come up. Now, there's definitely plenty of them out there. Don't get me wrong. I can't buy them all, but don't expect that every listing that you're going to find is actually going to be a good one. From my experience, there is a lot of mining that you have to do. That's why it's called Flipmine. And I'd say for maybe every 20 or 30 listings that I actually see pop up on eBay, I might only buy one. So it definitely is a numbers game and isn't just free money everywhere to be had. You definitely have to be able to do some keeper research. You got to be consistent with your buys. But if you did want to try Flipmine out, then it is a $50 a month subscription fee, which again, I think is completely worth it because like I said, just one of these books is going to pay for my monthly subscription. And of course, I find other books as well that are going to make me profit. And to be completely honest with you, we're just scratching the surface with the software because I'm specifically only looking in the book category. There's also the DVD category. There's the Blu-ray category. There's the toy category. There's so many different categories that you can source. And as long as you can learn how to read a keeper graph and you can take a look at these eBay and Amazon listings and compare them, there's tons of money to be had in all these other categories as well. So again, easiest way to support the channel is if you do want to sign up for Flipmine, just use the link to the free trial down below. And that's all I got for you. So I'll see you on the next one, and goodbye.